I'm here sitting with Noah Greenhill, who's GM of Marketing Business Development at the JSE. They have done some research to see whether or not there's any trends with regards to companies moving from the Altex to the JSE main board, but you found that there weren't any trends. What criteria were you basing this research on?
You know, pretty much share price movement, volume and value of the shares traded. So we kind of started from when we opened Altex and looked going forward at the companies that have migrated from Altex onto the main board. And there's no significant statistical impact on the value, volume and number of trades of the companies that move from Altex onto the main board.
So if there's no sort of significant increase in liquidity or increase in share price, why would a company want to move from the JSE to the main board?
Well, you know, I think it's a company's decision. I think they have every right, and you know, from our perspective, it's a product positioning thing. You know, you can start off on Altex if that meets your needs at that moment in time. Fantastic. You then move on to the main board, and for whatever reason you want to move to the main board, whether it's a perception that you're in a bigger league or you're next to companies of a like size or of a like nature, for whatever reason, then you move. So it's not, there's no regulatory requirement to move. It's more about the company's positioning of their listing on the JSE.
And I guess for Westcol, for instance, they wanted to increase their market cap to, I think it was R1 billion, and they also wanted exposure to a broader range of investors. Was that also a factor for the other companies that you researched? Yeah,
look, I think there certainly is a perception that in moving to the main board, more institutional type investors will cast their eyes on your share.
Yeah.
But certainly in the research that we did, in the recent roadshow that we've held with some of the institutional investors, the feedback that we've got is it doesn't matter where you are listed. What the institutional investors are looking at are the fundamental investment case of investing in that asset. And you know, they don't go, okay, so let's have a look at it. Your balance sheet, big tick. Income statement, big tick. Cash flow, big tick. Management, big tick. Corporate governance, big tick. Okay, we like the business, we like the prospects. You listed on Altex, well, we can't invest in you. Doesn't happen like that. You know, they go, we look at all those ticks. Hey, we're happy to invest. Oh, you listed on Altex, fantastic, move on. You know, not even a criteria. Obviously, there are fund managers out there that have mandates that preclude them from investing in companies of a certain size or with liquidity constraints. But that applies whether the companies are listed on Altex or whether they're listed on the main board. So if they have a size criteria that says we can't invest in companies with market caps less than R1 billion, well, that takes out a significant number of the main board companies. So you know, this play of Altex versus the main board, my view, it's a positioning thing that the company strategically needs to look at.
Just kind of looking at some of the other companies who wanted to move or had indicated that they wanted to move to the main board, for instance, the likes of Blue Financial Services, obviously that's fallen through. Have there been a number of companies who are not going to the main board because of current market conditions or whatever their internal issues are?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think moving to the main board is not the saviour. It's not going to change the business. You're not going to move from Altex onto the main board and all of a sudden, you know, operationally your business changes. It's still the same company. You're just just in a different sector on the JSE, in essence. So, you know, I think guys that move because of perception, because they perceive that they're being labelled as an Altex company, that's the wrong reason to move. So it's those kinds of guys who I think are kind of going back to their boards and saying, hold on a second, you know, and maybe a Blue is a case in point. You know, we've got a few things to do, we need to do some things, so let's bed down what we need to bed down on Altex. When we're good and ready again, maybe we'll move to the main board.
What about companies going the other way, moving back to the Altex? Is that kind of a trend that you see quite a lot?
Not at the moment. You know, obviously at the beginning of Altex, we did have a good couple of companies that moved from the main board onto Altex. Not a lot. You know, and again, I think it's all about perception. But I think companies that have a strategic mindset and are doing things for the right reasons will see the value in being on Altex versus the main board if they're of a certain size. So if it's a 200 million rand company, they're highly acquisitive, then perhaps it's better for them to be on Altex for a period of time and then migrate back to the main board. But also we certainly didn't set up Altex to have a regulatory arbitrage opportunity for companies. So it's about strategic direction of the company.